So when we're speaking about living this reality, we're looking as the light, from the light, to illuminate the ways that we can hold ourselves in separation, in limitation, in protection. All of the ways that we maybe prioritize a kind of seeking safety and hiding in layers of identity. And so as the light, from the light, we can look upon the life and we can use the experience of life to reveal to us where we are holding in these protective patterns and where identities are attempting to keep us safe. And yet the safety that we are seeking in identity is not a true stable ground. And that the stable ground that we are longing for is the unchanging, unflinching, undisturbable essence of our being. And when we come to a flow of pure devotion, we come to the flow inside us that is life. We come to the light inside us that is always shining and radiant. And we come to a sense of living for truth alone, for love alone, for freedom alone. We come to our innermost sense of knowing what is the real purpose of this life. And we let go of all of the kind of false identities and the places that we can lay our devotion at the feet of the identities that are protective. And we recognize that whatever is happening in life is some kind of opportunity to bring us closer to our own wholeness. That the whole unfolding is an inside job, right? It's all happening within our own heart, within our own landscape of consciousness, within our own nervous system, and even within our own mind. The mind is discovering that its true nature is pure awareness. We are discovering through being the intelligence that what the mind tells us is true isn't necessarily the true reality. And so when we shift our allegiance to be living for love alone, for truth alone, for our own wholeness above anything else, it's like we keep confirming at a frequency level our inner commitment to our very own self, to our very own wholeness, to liberation from limitation, and to be the light, to be the love, to be the fullness of who we are here to be, and that we recognize where this discovery is. And the discovery is in our own consciousness, being consciously awake and aware of what is real and true, in order that we can live this reality, that we can be a fully expressed, wildly free human, free to love, free to care, free to adventure, free to be free, right? And that any kind of hiccup in the field of our heart, our mind, our body is just a sign. It's showing us that there's an area here that I can bring the light to. And if I bring the light here and I allow the illumination of what is hiding here, what is tender here, what is scary here, what is hurting here, what is sad here, what is angry here, right? If I can bring the light to what is hiding in the shadowlands of my own consciousness, then that kind of revelation can set me free to live more of the fullness of this life. And that I don't have to set anyone else against me. I don't need to oppose anyone. I don't need to resist anyone. Because ultimately, resistance in my field is me resisting meeting myself more deeply. Now, it's a lot more complex, let's say, in nuance than just, there can be a simple way of like what you see you are. It's not as simple as that. It's really more about what you see on the screen is creating a reflection so that you can feel your reaction to what you're seeing on the screen, right? Or what's happening in the circumstance. It's not as simple as what you see you are. It's way more nuanced. And the way that we touch into the nuance is by feeling and meeting the energy, aliveness, and frequency field of our nervous system, whatever is happening. And that we recognize that being with the feeling field is always going to be more potent and revelatory than the story that the mind wants to tell or the mind wants to hang on to, right? So we're speaking about what it is to live this reality and to enter the flow of devotion, the flow of life, surrendering into life in order to live itself fully. Pure devotion is a flow, is a current of life in pure devotion to itself. It's love in devotion to love. It's light, illuminating light. It's the one being in an intimacy with itself that is the frequency of wholeness, right? So we sometimes say the integrity of wholeness remains whole because it never leaves itself. And we are made of that wholeness, that light. We are one with that. And yet we can't disagree that we're in a human experience that sometimes feels to be divided from that, sometimes feels to be limited and less than that wholeness. And yet our hearts are questing from a deep inner knowing already of being this truth. Our hearts are questing to know this and to live this. And so where it becomes really interesting is to discover, well, why am I so interested in kind of awakening? And can I allow my curiosity and my interest in awakening be the revelation that what I'm really longing for is to be my whole self? I'm not actually looking for an experience to get away from myself and awaken into some kind of abstract realization that negates or denies the fully engaged life in a human body. I'm looking to discover who I am and what I am in order that I am free to fully participate in life fearlessly, without fear of being myself, without a fear of life, without a fear of people, without a fear of being hurt, right? Without a fear of failing, without a fear of lack. What we're really questing for and longing for is to discover, who am I really here to be? What is this life? Lived in its full potential. And are we interested, truly interested, in getting on board the adventure that life is offering? To truly live this, to be like a fully integrated human that is being resourced from the source, from the divine, and from that true deep nourishment is able to live as a frequency of love and light. And in that, kindness and patience, compassion and care that's fully expressed, fully creative, fully inspired, and living fearlessly, right? So as these words come, just notice, is there anything that resonates in your heart? Is there any sense of truth that resonates with what your inner quest might feel to be? Whatever words we put upon it, wherever we are looking, in a way, the invitation here is always to join beyond the personal and yet to really celebrate the uniqueness. So that we're not here joining, connected by identities. We're not here connected by age group or culture or country or religion or interests, gender, peer group. We're not here joining according to the ways that we identify in the play of the world. We're here joining beyond all of that, beyond all the ways that we identify to find safety. The whole point actually is to join beyond that kind of discrimination, the ways that we discriminate and divide in the life. We're here to join at a frequency that sees that we are the same, and that what joins us is our love of truth, our love of reality, and our great longing to live this reality on the surface of life, and to be a living revolution in the human consciousness, that we're not like a secret squirrel group that's doing underground work, that we're here to resonate and be a transmission field that carries this into our lives, our families, our communities, our companions. And that we are even inviting our companions to live this reality too, right? That this isn't secret squirrel work. This is not underground. Gone are the days that we need to keep, the truth of our heart underground lest we be burned, right? For being connected to the inner mystic. This is about bringing the true mystic in our hearts alive, and realizing that all humans are mystical being, and that we're all longing for the mystical revelation in the heart. And that when we can see beyond the ways that we divide ourselves and separate ourselves and keep ourselves limited in a tribal consciousness that wants to belong and be seen and successful in certain groups, and wants to then avoid and deny and ignore others, that this is like a wild revolution of the heart that we are inviting. And we could say, the pioneers of this possibility, that we're here to live this and to be a living frequency that has our companions saying, hey, how come you're so joyful? What are you up to? Right? That we're actually living this, that we have a radiance and an honesty and a unified frequency of invitation, of deep presence and listening and care. That the measure of our life is not based upon the personal identity and achievement and being seen, that the measure of our life is how free are we in this life, right? How joyful are we? How unencumbered are we? How fearless are we? And we're not making a measure that we're pitching ourselves against anything, that we stop pitching ourselves against anything and anyone, and that we realize in our uniqueness that this endeavor is a deep and potent one, and that there's such an incredible gift and grace of sharing this, of being able to come together with beings that share the fire of the heart, that is living in a flow of pure devotion and recognizes what this life is truly for. Because it really does take everything to live this reality. And we are still in a time where the collective is deeply rooted in fear, and that fear is being uprooted and brought more to the surface in the crazy things that we experience happening. And it takes everything to not make the allegiance with fear, but to be a force of truth, of love, of to not collaborate with fear, to not join with that, but to be a true pioneer of the heart, to be fearlessly yourself, so that in a way we could say to live this reality is to be fearlessly real, to be fearlessly real in our lived experience, to be fearlessly true, radically honest in our lived experience, to be open to communicate clearly, to listen deeply, and to be willing to see through the barriers that we put up that are a way of actually avoiding our own true full expansion. There's like a plateauing place in this unfolding, where we find a place where we're comfortable enough. And then how this happens in the life is that we notice that we have a certain freedom and a way of connecting to truth, but we recognize that maybe certain patterns that we might call sabotaging patterns keep playing out, and we feel powerless to stop those sabotaging patterns or keep repeating certain things, because there's something in us that says, yeah, I want God, I want to know the truth, I want to know my wholeness, I want to live this reality, and yet I'm actually really scared of that. So I will just keep bringing in ways of avoiding the fullness of that. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? We're all up to the same games in our humanness. None of us are free of that, right? But it's this incredible playground to be like, wow, look at that. Look at how that just keeps coming up, right? And we start to feel good, free, embodied, the glory. And then we start to notice, wow, I just stepped into an old habit there. And now I don't feel like quite as vibrant. I feel dulled by making that move. And again, there's nothing ever wrong, right? We're just calling ourselves out here, right? We're just like, let's just be honest. Let's bring the light to the places where the shadow frequencies kind of want to pull us into fear, pull us into habit, pull us into the unconscious. But let us use that sense of being pulled into the unconscious as a revelation of the unconscious, and let us bring what is unconscious to the light. Let us bring the habits that seem to sabotage. Let us bring it all to the light, right? So that nothing is wrong. That because one of the main habits that we that pulls us away is the perpetual making ourselves wrong. Self-judgment, self-criticism, self-hatred, self-loathing, right? The ways that we move to pull ourselves into a frequency that says, yeah, all of the things that you want to be hard on yourself about are actually true. Because as soon as we believe that, collaborate and identify there, when we make an identity there, that's what we're amplifying, right? When we believe it, we're amplifying it. And then we could go like, oh man, now I'm amplifying it. Now I'm really like a hopeless case, right? We can kind of be pulled into a vortex of self-pity, of feeling like hopeless and powerless to change it. And yet, when we recognize that, we always have the capacity to stop and at least be aware of like, okay, I'm in a spiral here. I'm spiraling, right? That we find a way of noticing, I'm in the sabotage patterns, I'm in self-criticism. Let me just stop here. Whoa there, Billy Horse, let's just stop. Just stop and just take a look here, right? Just stop. Because it's not supportive to go in the direction of, well, look at what you're doing. You're so terrible. Now you're in self-criticism and you're doing it wrong. You're getting it wrong, and the spiral just wants to pull itself in. It wants to pull all of itself into the spiral. But however powerful that spiraling, that kind of vortex spiraling into fear and making ourselves wrong, like self-criticism, we could say guilt, shame and guilt really, and doubt is what is coming forward in those times, that we could say, okay, this is what's happening. Can I make the move to say, this is the fear, the shame, the guilt, the doubt, trying to pull me into a spiral of believing it. Can I just see that and just stop here? Right? Can I just see that? Nothing so much to do right now. Can I just stop and be with the energy that's here and just look upon it? Just take a look. Because where we're looking from is kind of our savior. And it's effortless in a way, because we're looking from awareness, and we recognize that we always have the power to be aware. We always have the power to look upon, right? So as we look upon, we're connecting with awareness. When we stop, we're connecting to the field of presence, right? We're looking upon as awareness. We're stopped and we're still in the field of presence. And then we start to feel the energy. And if we can say to ourselves, okay, the most challenging thing here is to be with this energy that I really want to get away from. And I really want to collaborate with those thoughts that want to be critical and judging of myself here. Can I just stop and just watch and just feel and just see what's happening? Just shine the light on what's happening. Because it really is as if we shine the big spotlight upon the thief, right, that's trying to rob us of the wideness of heart and the love and the openness and care of a field of life that is benevolent always. And that when life feels challenging, it feels like it's not going to change. There's that phrase that says, this too shall pass. But when you're in the storm, you're like, yeah, you don't want to be believing the idea that this is going to pass. It's like, yeah, 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 and right now, right? So what we're speaking of here is, what is it to just be here right now? And whatever is arising, that we can be here with it. Because in a way, our superpower is awareness, is presence. Our superpower is to know that we can be with ourselves, whatever is happening. Because it's like the moment expands when we are present in it, to it, as it. And the identity that's trying to take hold and take power is seen as an identity. We might even say, well, here's an identity. We don't need to kind of sleuth it out of exactly what it is, but we're pretty sure, well, here's an identity. Here's something that's trying to take the power away from love. Something here is trying to bring me into fear. Something here is trying to bring me into guilt and shame. And I'm buying into it. Part of me is buying into it here. But just when we come to presence and awareness and we take a look, we start to open up the field that says, okay, I see what's happening here. And now, if I'm open to this, and I'm aware of this, where I am aware from, this place is not identified. So I'm opening to the big space that can see. And I'm not trying to change anything, but I'm just seeing, well, here is an identity that's making myself wrong, that's making someone else wrong. Can I feel and notice what's really here? Can I be with my own feelings of shame, of guilt, of sadness, of hurt, of great fear, wild rage, whatever it is? Can I meet myself here? And sometimes in a spiral, we might even feel like, well, I'm feeling challenged here. Do I need to call upon a companion to just help me find my ground here? To really ground here into the field of presence, so that I can see and I can hold through feeling and being with the energies that are moving in my system without being spiraled out and into collaboration with fear and creating divisions. You know, we create divisions then from the things that we love, the people that we love. We divide ourselves and we start seeing through filters that make people that we care about and love wrong. We let judgments come in. We let story come in. Because identity wants to find safety in its pain, right? If the pain body finds a certain kind of nourishment in its pain, and then the pain body has this amazing capacity to tell itself stories and see through filters that amplify that frequency, that kind of create a false sense of safety around me, like I'm safe here. But actually, we've found a sense of false safety in our fear of life. We've found a sense of safety hiding from life and not interacting, not communicating, not actually facing ourselves and what is arising, right? So there's this incredible potency to just the stop and the presence and really being real with ourselves, right? One of the great protections is like a sense of self-reliance that we learned, because we learned that it was it wasn't safe to express and to share what we were really feeling. And so we found that false sense of safety in self-reliance, of keeping ourselves divided in our kind of inner world, inner story, and our stories that keep us divided and make others wrong actually are like a learned mechanism of self-reliance. But we create these kind of fortresses, and we're longing for freedom and we're longing for God, and yet we've divided ourselves and we've cut ourselves off from the source of true nourishment and the companionships that actually reflect us in truth and hold us in presence and truly love and care for us, right? And so it's like our belief that relational dynamics are turbulent and chaotic and we have conflict kind of overshadows the truth that the relational field is a unified field that's caring, that's receiving, that gives, is patient and kind. We can be holding these identities in the belief that the relational field is dangerous, is unsafe, untrustworthy. And it pulls us in and in and into ourselves. And then we're seeking for awakening, and we're seeking for God and glory, but we're only willing to open as much as we can within the safety of our self-reliance, because we're terrified that if we let our guard down, that we're going to be hurt, or we're going to let somebody will get too close, or something will be revealed about me, something will happen, or there'll be conflict, or I'll lose, right? All of these ways, so we come into this self-reliance, but what's happening is that we're cutting ourselves off from our true connection to God and glory, and the flow of pure devotion, and the flow of everything that we're longing for. And that's why community, sangha, that's joined in pure devotion is so important. Because it's not saying I'm joined because we're a member of this club where we're sharing these interests, or we're the same age, or we're this, that, or the other. It's saying we're here together because we're committed to living this reality. And I know here that there's a safety to be myself and to share what's stormy and turbulent in my heart and field, and that I will be held, right? And if I don't feel safe in in a group, then there's companionship to bridge that, right? There's a meeting in a frequency that is love and openness and care. And we're not used to that. So we can be suspicious of it, right? And our self-reliance can very easily fly to reasons why that's not a good place for me, why I don't belong there, why I don't fit, right? Because the identity is trying to find where I do fit. I don't want to be, I need to be with people of the same gender as me, or the same, background as me, the same age as me, all of these ways. But the great glory is in joining beyond all of that, where the diversity actually is celebrated in unity, right? And that the longing of our heart is what is calling us to be together. And that there's nothing that is not surmountable. There's no bridge that we can't make in love. Like, love will bridge everything. Love will open the way through everything, even the things that we feel are impossible in this lifetime to transform. That if our collaboration remains with love and not fear, and amplifying that deeply held belief that never, never will I open in that way, never will that happen, never can there be change, never can I be safe, right? When we let go of that and we just allow ourselves to be held so that baby steps can happen. Because what we're really coming into is a deep trust of our own self, and to know our own self and to trust our own self. Because often there can be a sense inside that we made decisions where we betrayed ourselves, or we left ourselves, or hard things happened to us. So we must have done something wrong. So I can't trust myself because something happened in my life where somehow I did something wrong, or I put myself in the wrong situation, or I did it wrong. But the truth is we've never done anything wrong. Life has played itself. And in a way, we're in this incredible, potent possibility of unraveling the ways that we've made the happenings of life a fortress that keeps us from freedom and keeps us from love. Because our hearts are wired for love. Our hearts are wired to know our divinity and to live that on the surface of life, right? So there's no obstacle too big for love. And yet, inside our inner world, it can feel like the obstacles are too big. But there's always a way. But the willingness starts inside us. The courage starts inside us, right? And it's not about measuring and comparison. It's about the revelations that are happening for us, and the shifts and the changes that are happening, and the grace and the glory of what we are opening to. Because as we open to more of the grace and the glory, the more the invitation comes to bring all of ourself to wholeness, right? So life will create situations that will say, okay, now you're going to be invited to meet this part of you, right? If we make someone else wrong and we just collaborate in the frequency of fear, we miss the opportunity of meeting all of the tender parts of ourselves that are longing for love and freedom, right? We miss the opportunity to meet ourselves in love, in care, in patience, and to truly unravel the deeply held beliefs that there's something wrong with me, that I've done something wrong. And we can never find this kind of freedom by pitching ourselves against others. You know, we spoke of this recently, that there's such a play in life to make myself right by making others wrong, and creating an identity about how I'm right, how I'm virtuous, how I'm doing it right. And all of those ones that are doing it wrong, like creating a whole persona and a whole identity of why I'm right and the others are wrong. But because we're so conditioned in these ways, we can get carried into that, and we can join. I want to join that tribe, right? Because you're making the places in me that feel hurt, feel heard. And so I'm going to join your tribe, and I'm going to divide and make those ones wrong, and I'll join your tribe, and we'll be right together, right? So it's this constant, perpetual game of our inner sense to make ourselves right and join with where we feel safe, instead of unraveling the whole identity structure at its root into love, and realizing that every being is moving from love. Nobody's doing it wrong. But by golly, there's a lot of identity dancing on the surface of life, right? We're all holding these places. But if we're willing to say, I would like to see through any and all identity, and I'm willing to flow in pure devotion in order that identity will be washed up on the shore of my life, right? And I can keep seeing through the ways that I want to attach and hold on to and belong in frequencies of fear. Because ultimately, when we really recognize what I'm truly longing for is to belong to God, belong to myself, to know my own wholeness, then our fierce courage comes in to face what feels hard, right? Yeah. So we join beyond identity. We join where the passion and the pull of our hearts is to be true, to live in love and openness. And in that it's like we look around and we see our companions and we honor and acknowledge the courage of all of our hearts to be here, to keep showing up, to keep saying yes, and to keep joining in a frequency of love and care and holding that is true and is reprogramming the belief that nourishment is limited. There's not enough love. It's going to run out. I can't trust it. It's going to leave. It's going to disappoint. What we can be absolutely sure of is that anything and everything on the surface of life will disappoint us at some point if we have expectations of it. And yet what will never disappoint us is the grace and glory of the divine heart that is always here and is always patient and kind. And if we make our collaboration with the divine heart in pure devotion, to live this life for love alone, to live this life for truth alone, for freedom alone, for wholeness alone, if we make this life about only that, we can absolutely guarantee that we will not be disappointed. But we have to be willing to give wholeheartedly to that and to identify the places that we give with one hand and we take it back with the other, and find out what are we taking back, and are we willing to open up and offer that, all of that, to this full, wholehearted adventure that we are traversing the terrain of our own inner nervous system and consciousness, but we're sharing it in a very profound way. Because it's like it's not about shifting our inner self-reliance that is protective to a total aloneness. It's about realizing that ultimately that we're alone, as in one with God, but that actually we're shifting from a self-reliance to a true collaborative frequency, a frequency of true Sangha, is a frequency of companionship that is rooted only, let's say, in that frequency of pure devotion, right? That in a way that it's the frequency of Sangha that carries us, and because it's carrying the frequency of pure devotion, and it can hold us even when we are wavering. And it's also recalibrating our belief that relational dynamics are challenging and chaotic, right? Because it's showing us that there can be a relational field if we're willing to open to it and to receive it, that there can be a relational field too that is safe, because we're rooted in the divine, right? We're not rooted in the personal. We're rooted in the divine together, right? So just to feel what is happening in your system as these words come, and where you find resonance, where you find fear, right? Where you find identity, where you find stirrings, and where you find a sense of relaxation and comfort, right? It's all happening, and we're all experiencing all of it together. Yeah. So let's just rest here and just feel what we're each uniquely feeling and noticing in the field. Yeah. Can you feel the frequency that joins us? The presence of God and glory that joins us? True righteousness, let's say. The purity and the innocence of God and glory that is the innocence of our own hearts. And that we're longing for the revelation of that innocence in our own heart, so that we can remember the innocence in every heart. That every being is doing their best. And of course, there's times where we look around and we're like, wow, their best is not good enough for me, right? But again, if we have expectations, we will always be disappointed. But let us start where we can make change, and let us be open to that change in our own lives. And let us bring in the projections where we can, and let us meet ourselves more deeply, so that we can come to a sense of wholeness and love in our own hearts. That we don't let the play of the world make us believe that everything is wrong and bad and evil and dark. That we know the truth and the innocence and the beauty of our own hearts, and we make our allegiance with that. Because when people are moving in separation, fear, division, guilt and shame, they move in ways that are a reflection of that. We all do that in certain ways, right? But let us start where we can make the change. Let us let the macro affect the micro, and let us see where we can bring what is unconscious in ourselves into the light, and really let our lives be a living revolution of living reality. Yeah. This is our manifest for today. So just receiving what is coming forward. There's nothing to believe. There's nothing to learn. It's all about just what stirs in our field, and how we're joined in love, and we're joined in our passion for truth, and how that is the same. And there's nothing that can divide us when we are truly joined in the one heart. And then our work is to find our way to bring all of the threads and fibers of our being that feel to be divided and disconnected into connection in the one heart. And yes, it's an inner solo unwinding. It is, for sure. And yet to share it with companions that are similarly ignited, inspired and passionate, and longing to live in this frequency of wholeness and to find out what is possible in this human life, then the adventure starts to become fun as we share it. Yeah.